أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Lesson number 82, Surah Al-Anam. Will begin from ayah number 84. In the previous ayat, we learned about the story of Ibrahim a.s. How, through observation on the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the sun, the moon, the stars, how he observed the truth himself, and he also tried to show it to the people. That through the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, recognize who Allah is, who the Creator is, who the Khaliq is. And we learn from other places in the Quran, from other stories that are mentioned about Ibrahim a.s., that once he established the Tawheed and he proved the Tawheed to them, obviously the people, they wouldn't accept it. And because of that, he had to leave his people. We know that eventually he broke the idols, because of which the mushrikeen, what did they do? They tried to burn him. And upon that, he had to leave the place. He had to leave his people. And when he left something for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, look at how Allah rewarded him. That وَوَهَبْنَا لَهُ إِسْحَاقَ وَيَعْقُوبَ. He was alone. Just one person. And Allah, He granted him Ishaq and Yaqub. The word wahabna is from the root letters wawhaba, from the word wahaba, yahibu, which is to give a gift. It is also used for giving a donation. And basically it is to give something without expecting any return. It is to give something without expecting any return, any benefit. The word is also used for donation. What does it mean? That when a person gives a donation, then he must not expect anything in return. Even the acknowledgement, even the praise of other people. Because he's doing it only for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So basically, hiba is a gift that one gives. Why? Wahabana. This is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who is giving. So what does it mean? Literally, it is to give. Why? What's the purpose of giving this gift? You're not expecting any return. You're not expecting any thanks, any praise. You don't want anything in return. Why are you giving it then? This is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who is giving. Out of appreciation, on being happy with the other, because of what they have done. So, وَوَهَبْنَا لَهُ إِسْحَاقَ. We gave to Ibrahim a.s. Ishaq. And the word hiba is used in the Quran for bestowing children in particular. So, as a special favor, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed Ishaq a.s. to who? To Ibrahim a.s. And it is called hiba. Why? Because he was given Ishaq a.s. in very old age. He was given the son in a very old age. And not just Ishaq a.s., but he was also given grandchildren. وَيَعْقُوبَ. And also Yaqub. And this is a huge favor upon a person. That first of all, he lives to see his own children, and then he lives to see the children of his children. Grandchildren are a huge blessing on a person from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, when Ibrahim a.s. was given this news that he is not just going to be given a son, but also the son of the son, this was a special good news for him, because this meant that he was going to live long enough to see his grandson. وَوَهَبْنَا لَهُ إِسْحَاقَ وَيَعْقُوبَ. كُلًّا هَدَيْنَا. And all of them we guided. Meaning each and every one of them, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guided. What does hidayah refer to? Hidayah of both. Irshad as well as tawfiq. Because both of them, they were made the prophets of Allah. They were given prophethood. وَنُوحًا هَدَيْنَا مِنْ قَبْلُ. And Nuh alayhi salam, we guided from before. Nuh alayhi salam was before Ibrahim alayhi salam in time. Which is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, هَدَيْنَا مِنْ قَبْلُ. Meaning before Ibrahim alayhi salam, we guided him. That just as Ibrahim alayhi salam was guided to Tawheed in the midst of shirk, similarly Nuh alayhi salam was guided to Tawheed in the midst of shirk as well. Both of them were saved from shirk. And both of them were given righteous offspring. وَنُوحًا هَدَيْنَا مِنْ قَبْلُ. And both of them opposed shirk, day in and day out, morning and evening. Both of them promoted Tawheed. وَمِنْ ذُرِّيَّتِهِ. And from his offspring. Whose offspring? both meanings are correct. ذُرِّيَّتِهِ can refer to the offspring of Ibrahim a.s. as well as offspring of Nuh a.s. And if you think of it, Ibrahim a.s. was from the offspring of who? Nuh a.s. So his offspring would mean whose offspring? Nuh a.s. So وَمِن ذُرِّيَّتِهِ دَاوُودَ وَسُلَيْمَانَ. Meaning, and of the offsprings of Ibrahim a.s. or of Nuh a.s. were who else? Dawood and Sulaiman. And who was Sulaiman a.s., the son of? Dawood a.s. Who else? وَأَيُّوب وَيُوسُفَ وَمُوسَى وَهَارُونَ. And all of them were who? Prophets of Allah. All of them were given hidayah. All of them were guided to Tawheed. All of them promoted Tawheed as well. Dawood a.s., Sulaiman a.s., they were kings. Ayyub a.s., how is he described in the Quran? Ni'mal abd. He was a very good servant, and he was known for his sabr, for his patience. Yusuf a.s., also known for his sabr. Musa a.s., also for his sabr in dealing with his people. وَهَارُونَ, the brother of Musa a.s. وَكَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي الْمُحْسِنِينَ. And thus do we recompense those who do ihsan. What was their ihsan? What was their beauty in their actions? That despite the fact that they were alone, what did they do? What their Rabb wanted them to do. The sacrifice for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, everything, even their family, even their people. And look at the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewarded them, even in the dunya. And over here in particular, the jaza, what it refers to is that Ibrahim a.s., he left his people for the sake of Allah. Allah gave him offspring. Not just his children, but even grandchildren. Not just grandchildren, but his descendants, amongst whom was what? Knowledge, prophethood. So وَكَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Likewise do we recompense those who do ihsan. So over here we see that Ibrahim a.s., first of all, it is mentioned that he was given the news of having children. And we learned that at that time in Sarah, his wife, she had given up hope of having any children. Both of them were very old. And we learned that angels, they came to Ibrahim a.s., they were sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they gave them the good news of Ishaq, of having children. We learned from the Quran that when the wife of Ibrahim a.s., when she was given the news of having children, she said, قالت يا ويلتا أألد وأنا عجوز وهذا بعلي شيخا. She said in amazement that, woe unto me, shall I bear a child while I am an old woman? وَهَذَا بَعْلِي شَيْخًا. And here is my husband, who is a very old man. إِنَّ هَذَا لَشَيْءٌ عَجِيبٌ. Indeed, this is a very strange thing. But what did the angels say? They said, قَالُوا, they said, أَتَعْجَبِينَ مِنْ أَمْرِ اللَّهِ. Do you wonder at the decree of Allah? رَحْمَةُ اللَّهِ وَبَرَكَاتُهُ عَلَيْكُمْ. The mercy of Allah and His blessings be upon you. أهل البيت, O family of Ibrahim a.s. إِنَّهُ حَمِيدٌ مَجِيدٌ. Indeed, Allah is all praiseworthy as well as all glorious. So we see that he was not just given children, but before having the children, he was given the good news as well. He was given the good news as well. And he was not just given the good news of having children, but he was told that they were going to be prophets of Allah. وَبَشَّرْنَاهُ بِإِسْحَاقَ نَبِيًّا مِنَ الصَّالِحِينَ. We gave him the good news of Ishaq, a prophet among the righteous. Just imagine a person is told, your child is going to be the president of so-and-so country. How happy they would be. And look at this good news that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him, that your child is going to be a prophet. And not just one child, not just his children, but from the offspring. From your descendants are going to be many prophets. What do we learn from this ayah? First of all, we learn that if temporarily, for some time, a person does suffer harm because of the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this harm means that perhaps a person is suffering from loneliness. A person becomes a loner. Literally, this happens. And there are people who cannot take this. That since I've started wearing the hijab, or since I've stopped hanging out with these people, I don't have any friends. I'm alone. I go home, I don't know who to talk to. I don't know who to call. On the weekends, I don't know who to invite. I don't know whose house to go to. Literally, I've become a loner. This is a part of the package. This happens. And this is only a test. And when a person goes through this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala definitely rewards him. Ibrahim a.s. was alone. alone. His family even left him. Forget about friends, even family abandoned him. He was literally alone. But look at how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala recompensed him. He rewarded him. He made up for the loss that he suffered. Similarly, if there is any other loss that a person suffers in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will definitely make up for it, somehow or the other. But you have to trust upon Him. You have to trust upon Him. We learn from the Quran elsewhere as well that فَلَمَّا اعْتَزَلَهُمْ وَمَا يَعْبُدُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ وَهَبْنَا لَهُ إِسْحَاقَ وَيَعْقُوبَ وَكُلًّا جَعَلْنَا نَبِيًّا. So when He turned away from them, meaning from His people, and from those whom they worship besides Allah, meaning from their gods, then what happened? We gave him Ishaq and Yaqub, and each of them we made a prophet. It's possible that today you lose your friends because of following the deen. And tomorrow, you're given those friends who are much better than your previous friends. Much better. But you just have to have some sabr. You have to be patient. You have to be consistent. You cannot give up hope. You cannot give up. Secondly, we also learn from this ayah that anyone who does ihsan, any person, whether he is a prophet of Allah or lesser in degree, a righteous person, anyone who does ihsan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala definitely rewards him. وَكَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Yes, in this ayah, the prophets of Allah are mentioned. But it's not just them who are rewarded for their ihsan. Any other person who does what they did, they will also get the same recompense. وَزَكَرِيَّا وَيَحْيَا. Meaning, and we also gave him Zakaria and Yahya. Of his descendants were who? Zakaria and Yahya. Who was Zakaria alayhi salam? The uncle of Maryam alayhi salam. وَيَحْيَا. And who was Yahya alayhi salam? The son of Zakaria alayhi salam. وَعِيسَى. And Isa alayhi salam. Who was he? The son of Maryam. وَإِلْيَاسَ. As well as Ilyas. It is said that Ilyas alayhi salam was a paternal nephew of Harun alayhi salam. كُلُّ مِنَ الصَّالِحِينَ. All of them were of the righteous. Meaning each and every single one of them was of those who are righteous. So we see that Ibrahim a.s. was bestowed with many righteous offspring. And not just righteous, but they were also prophets. And this was a huge blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَإِسْمَاعِيلَ وَالْيَسَعَ. And Ismail a.s. Who was Ismail a.s.? The son of Ibrahim a.s. The other son. The first who has been mentioned thus far was who? Ishaq. And now who is mentioned? Ismail. وَالْيَسَعَ. As well as Al-Yasa'. Over here, Al-Yasa', the actual name is Yasa', and it is said that Al is, or the Lam is Zaid. It is extra. So Al-Yasa' and Al-Yasa' wa Yunusa wa Luta. Yunus alayhi salam as well as Lut alayhi salam. Meaning all of them were from his descendants. Now, Lut alayhi salam was actually a nephew of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Who was Lut alayhi salam? The nephew of Ibrahim alayhi salam. It is said that he was the son of Haran, who was the brother of Ibrahim alayhi salam. And if you think of it, a person's nephew is not of his zurriya. He is not of his offspring. Nephew. But he is mentioned over here amongst the descendants of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Why? Because a nephew, yes, he's like a son. He's like an offspring. But since he is the only one who is not of the descendants, therefore the whole list is not going to be altered. It's just generalized then. Because it's understood. Lut alayhi salam was his nephew. He was not of his direct offspring, he was his nephew. But the same rule is going to be applied to keep the kalam general. And this is something that is common in the Arabic language, that you may be mentioning particular members of a particular group, and amongst them is one who does not necessarily belong to that group, but you mention him anyway as part of that group, just to keep the kalam general. For instance, Iblis, was he an angel? No. But what do we learn? That فَسَجَدَ الْمَلَائِكَةُ كُلُّهُمْ أَجْمَعُونَ إِلَّا إِبْلِيسَ. That all of the angels, they prostrated except for Iblis. Now, Iblis was not an angel. But because he was amongst that group, that's why it is said except for Iblis. He was a jinn. Similarly, وَلُوطًا. وَكُلًّا. And all of them. Meaning all of these prophets of Allah who have been mentioned over here, فَضَّلْنَا عَلَى الْعَالَمِينَ, we gave them preference over the people of the worlds. How? That we gave them prophethood. All of them were given what? Prophethood. And this is how they were made superior above all the people of the world. So we see that when a person leaves something for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then Allah gives him more in return. You leave one thing for the sake of Allah, and Allah will give you something much more in return. وَمِنْ آبَائِهِمْ, and from their ancestors, from their forefathers. Who's Aba? Who does them refer to? Them refers to those prophets who have been mentioned over here. That from among their ancestors, meaning among their forefathers, وَذُرِّيَّاتِهِمْ, and their offspring, their descendants, وَإِخْوَانِهِمْ, and their brothers, meaning all of them, فَضَّلْنَا. Over here, وَمِن, this is connected with what? The previous ayah. That وَكُلًّا فَضَّلْنَا عَلَى الْعَالَمِينَ, all of them we preferred over the worlds. And who was that? مِنْ آبَائِهِمْ وَذُرِّيَّاتِهِمْ وَإِخْوَانِهِمْ. That it wasn't just Ibrahim a.s. who was chosen, but along with him who was chosen? Of his forefathers, meaning Nuh a.s. وَذُرِّيَّاتِهِمْ, and of his descendants, وَإِخْوَانِهِمْ, his nephew. So it wasn't just these individuals in particular who were chosen, but along with them, who else was chosen? Who else was selected? Their ascendants, their descendants, their brothers, their contemporaries, they were chosen as well. وَاجْتَبَيْنَاهُمْ, and we chose them. Ijtabayna from the root letters, Jim Ba, Ya. From Jibaya, which is to collect, and it is to collect something and take it elsewhere. So Ijtaba is to choose, to select someone out of a group. So from all those people, we selected these men. وَاجْتَبَيْنَاهُمْ, we selected them for what? For prophethood. وَهَدَيْنَاهُمْ إِلَى صِرَاطٍ مُسْتَقِيمٍ, and we guided them to the straight path. Meaning we guided them to the message of Tawheed and the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. So we see over here that all of them as a family, they were involved in deen. They were dedicated in the deen. That the father, the children, the brothers, all of them together, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose the entire family. So if a person sees that his entire family is serving the deen, that it's not just the children, but it's the parents, and it's not just the parents, but it's also the siblings, that the whole family is involved in the deen, then that is a huge favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon a family. A huge favor. Never become proud of this. That yes, we are so righteous, we belong to the family of righteous people. My sister also wears hijab. My mother also wears hijab. My father has a beard. And all of us, we go to the halaqah together. Yes, it's a good thing, but it's a huge favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon you. And we also have to see that Ibrahim a.s., he started alone. Right? He was alone at the beginning. And as he started, his nephew came along, Lut a.s. And then he was given his son, Ishaq a.s. And not just his son, but also grandchildren. He lived long enough to see his grandchildren. So sometimes we just see, a group of people, family members, people who are related to one another, they're working together for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for the deen. And when we look at them, we're like, oh, they're so lucky, and poor us. But the fact is that each person starts alone. Each person starts alone. Ask those people who are working for the deen if their family was always like that. And you will hear, no. Their family was not always like that. It's possible that the parents were busy in the deen and the children were not interested at all. Or the children were very interested in the deen, but the father, he doesn't even care about salah. It happens in many families. It takes many years. It takes time. But someone has to start. One person has to start at least. So we see over here that if a whole family is working for the deen, is practicing the deen, then it is indeed a huge favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon them. ذَلِكَ هُدَى اللَّهِ, that is the guidance of Allah. What does it refer to? The deen to which they were guided. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them the tawfiq to follow their religion, to practice their religion. That is the guidance of Allah. يَهْدِي بِهِ مَنْ يَشَاءُ, and Allah guides with it whomsoever He wills. Based on what? His knowledge and His wisdom. So He guides to this hidayah whomsoever He wills min ibadi from His servants. وَلَوْ أَشْرَكُوا, and if they did shirk. Who does it refer to? All of these prophets who have been mentioned over here. If they did shirk, if they associated partners with Allah, then what would happen? لَحَبِطَ عَنْهُمْ مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. All that they used to do would have been wasted, nullified. The word habita from the root letters, habata. And habt is when something becomes nullified. It becomes useless. So, they did a lot of good deeds. But if they did shirk, that shirk would nullify all of their good deeds. لَحَبِطَ عَنْهُمْ مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. Now, it can never be imagined that the prophets of Allah, whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave wahi, hidayah, they would do shirk. Can it ever be imagined? Can it? No. It's not even expected. You can't even think about it. You can never imagine this, that a prophet of Allah does shirk. Then why is it being mentioned like this? That if they did shirk, then all of their good deeds would be wasted? The reason behind this is to magnify the serious danger of shirk. That this is how dangerous shirk is. This is how serious, this is how grave it is. That no matter who the person is, even if he is a prophet of Allah, regardless of who he is, regardless of how righteous he has been all his life, if he does shirk, then that's it. All of his deeds are wasted. So we see that the greatest evil is what? It is shirk. That because of shirk, all deeds of a person are wasted, regardless of who he is. Whether he is an alim, or he is an abid, a worshipper, or he is a prophet of Allah. No matter who he or she is, if he does shirk, that's it. All the good deeds are wasted. We learn in Surah Al-Zumar, ayah number 65, وَلَقَدْ أُوحِيَ إِلَيْكَ وَإِلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكَ. And indeed it has been revealed to you, as it was to those messengers before you. لَإِنْ أَشْرَكْتَ لَيَحْبَطَنَّ عَمَلُكَ. If you associate others with Allah, if you join in worship others with Allah, then surely your deeds will be wasted. They'll be in vain. Who is being addressed in this ayah in particular, in Surah Al-Zumar, ayah 65 that I just mentioned to you? The Prophet ﷺ. And over here, who is being mentioned? All of the prophets. So regardless of who a person is, if he does shirk, his deeds are wasted. Basically in these ayat, the people of Mecca, they're being reprimanded. Remember these ayat, Surah Al-Anam, of the last to be revealed in Mecca? And what was the problem with the people of Mecca? Shirk. They weren't willing to give that up. They weren't willing to give that up. So over here they're being reprimanded that this is your ancestry. These prophets, who are they? Those who promoted Tawheed. Those who lived to worship Allah. Those who sacrificed whatever they had to establish Tawheed. And you, being their descendants, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're doing shirk. You are their descendants. Look at those before you. They left everything for the sake of Allah. And you are leaving Tawheed for the sake of your dunya, for the sake of your idols. So over here they're being reprimanded. Because the main problem that they suffered was of shirk. أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ. Those are the ones who, meaning all of these prophets who are mentioned, they are the ones who آتَيْنَاهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحُكْمِ. We gave them the book and the hukum. Kitab over here is ism jins, and it refers to kutub, meaning scriptures. We gave them scriptures. That each and every one of them was given the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and some of them, they were given the scriptures of Allah. Some were given the scriptures, and some were followers of those scriptures. Like for example, Musa a.s. was given the Torah. But the prophets who came after him, what did they do? They followed the Torah. So, we gave them the book, and we also gave them al-hukum. What does hukum mean? Hukum has several meanings. It means hikmah, wisdom. So we gave them wisdom. And what does hikmah mean? وَضْعُ الشَّيْءِ فِي مَحَلِّهِ. To place something where it belongs. So, they weren't just given the knowledge of the book, but they were also taught as to how to follow the book. Similarly, hukum applies to ilmun nafi', beneficial knowledge. Beneficial knowledge. Because yes, the book that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given, that has knowledge in it, and that is the most perfect knowledge for us. But along with that, along with the knowledge of the kitab, don't you need other knowledge as well? Don't you? Of course you do. Because if you don't have that knowledge, you will not be able to understand the kitab. You will not be able to implement the kitab. You will not be able to appreciate the kitab. But not every knowledge is beneficial. Hukum refers to which knowledge? Ilmun nafi', beneficial knowledge. So whenever a person is learning about something, even if it's something of the dunya, then what should he consider? That it must be ilmun nafi', beneficial knowledge. For example, in the Quran we learn about Makkah. It's known as the Qura, the mother of towns. What does that mean? That it's a central town. In different ways, but also geographically. But for that, you need to learn about geography as well. Similarly, the sun, the moon, all of these are mentioned in the Quran. And for that, you don't just need what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned, but you also need other knowledge as well to understand better what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said. So, hukum is beneficial knowledge. Similarly, hukum also applies to fiqh fid deen, understanding of the religion. Because many people, they know about the facts, but they don't understand. Which is why when they don't understand, they cannot implement. They cannot relate. So we gave them the kitab and we also gave them hukum. It is also said that hukum applies to the ahkam of the sharia, the laws of the sharia, which are not just given in the scripture, but they're also given to the Prophet whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent. So for instance, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was given the Quran and he was also given what else? The Sunnah, the wahi, غير matlu, in which he was given other ahkam. So we gave them the kitab and the hukum wal nubuwah as well as prophethood. فَإِن يَكْفُرْ بِهَا هَؤُلَاءِ. So if these people, they disbelieve in it. فَإِن يَكْفُرْ. If he disbelieves. Biha, with it. With what? What does ha refer to? Ha refers to the three things that are mentioned over here. The kitab, the hukum, and the nubuwah. Who denies them? Ha'ulai, these people. Who does ha'ulai refer to? Who do you think? The people of Mecca. That if these people of Mecca, ha'ulai is used for those who are close. If these people of Mecca, of this time, of this place, because remember Makki surah, where was the Prophet ﷺ? In Mecca. So these people would be which people? People of Mecca. Of which time? Of his time. So if these people, they deny the kitab, the hukum, the nubuwah that has been given to you, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then we don't need them. فَقَدْ وَكَّلْنَا. Then in fact we have entrusted biha, with it. What does ha refer to? The three things. That we have entrusted these to who? قَوْمًا, another people. And these other people, لَيْسُوا بِهَا بِكَافِرِينَ. They are not at all disbelievers in these three. Rather, they believe in it fully and completely. Now the word that has been used over here is وَكَّلْنَا, that we have entrusted these three. The word وَكَّلْنَا is from the root letters waw, kaf, lam. From the same root is the word tawakkul, which is to trust upon someone. From the same root is the word wakil, on whom one trusts, to whom a person hands over his matters, his affairs to. So وَكَّلْنَا, we have entrusted, we have put in charge, we have assigned. So we have given, we have entrusted these three to who? To another people who will not disbelieve in it. Who does this other people refer to? In the context, it refers to the people of Medina. The people of Medina. That the people of Mecca, they rejected the Prophet ﷺ, they rejected the hukum, they rejected the nubuwah, they rejected everything that he had brought. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, if they don't accept it, we don't need them to accept it. Yes, they are the people of Mecca, but we don't need them. We can find other people, and we can give them the blessing of Iman in these three. And these people, لَيْسُوا بِهَا بِكَافِرِينَ, they are not at all disbelievers in it. Notice, biha, bi kafirin. This ba over here, bi kafirin, it is zaid, it is extra, for emphasis. that they're not at all disbelievers in these three things. Meaning, they fully and completely believe in all these three aspects, all these three things. They will not even deny one ayah, one command, one aspect. It's not that they will believe in the kitab, but they will deny the nubuwah. Or it's not that they will believe in the nubuwah, but they will deny the hukum. No, they believe in everything, in totality. They believe in all of the Qur'an, all of the ayat, even if there are some ayat which they don't fully comprehend. Some of them, if they don't even fully comprehend them, still, they believe in it 100%. لَيْسُوا بِهَا بِكَافِرِينَ. So over here we see that indication is towards the hijrah, towards migration. And remember that this was towards the end of the Meccan period, when the Prophet ﷺ, soon after this, he migrated from Mecca to Medina. So the people of Mecca are being given a final warning, that if you don't believe, you reject your messenger, then we don't need you. We have other people. And they're much better than you. And you notice the story of Ibrahim a.s. is mentioned right before. Because Ibrahim a.s. was also rejected by his people. He left, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him who? Much better people. Similarly, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if you're rejecting him, you think he's going to finish? His mission is going to come to an end? No, it's not going to come to an end. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who's supporting him. So what do we learn from these ayat? First of all, we learn that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not need people to accept His religion. He does not need people to observe His religion, to serve His religion. Rather, when a person follows the deen, then who is he benefiting? Himself. And if he does not follow the deen, then who is he harming? Himself. Who is he causing loss to? Himself. And this is such an important lesson that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reiterates His message over and over again throughout the Qur'an. Throughout the Qur'an. Because unfortunately, many of us, we think that if we're studying the Qur'an, if we're practicing the deen, it's a favor that we're showing to the people of the deen. No. It's a favor that we're doing to ourselves. It's not a favor upon Allah, it's not a favor upon other people. It's a favor on ourselves. Remember, in any capacity, if you're serving the deen, in any way whatsoever, you're helping yourself first. Then we also learn from these ayat that if a person does not take advantage of a blessing that is given to him, then what happens? Then very soon he is deprived of it. And it's not just that he is deprived of it. It is given to someone else before his eyes. Before his eyes, it's given to someone else. And he cannot do anything about it then. He's only left to regret and feel bad. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَقَدْ وَكَّلْنَا بِهَا قَوْمًا لَيْسُوا بِهَا بِكَافِرِينَ. We are going to give it to another people. We will entrust it to another people. You don't want it? You're rejecting it? Go ahead. Don't take advantage of this blessing. Very soon, you'll be deprived of it. And notice over here, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قَوْمًا, another people, this other people, yes, it refers to the people of Medina, the Ansar. But it's not just the Ansar. It's not just the Ansar. It actually refers to all those people who follow the way of the Ansar, the Muhajirin, basically the Sahaba, until the day of resurrection. Who follow their way, who follow their lead until the day of resurrection. So it includes the Tabi'een, the Taba' Tabi'een. And all the generations until the day of judgment who follow the way of the Sahaba. In believing, in accepting, in spreading the message that the Prophet ﷺ had brought. Whether they are of the Arab or the Ajam. Whether they are Arabs or non-Arabs. And we see that so many times. There are people who are born Muslim, but they don't serve the deen the way that other people serve the deen who become Muslim. So, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not need us. It's we who need Him. If we don't take advantage of this opportunity of deen that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given, He can use other people to serve His deen. Recitation.
Well.